So, Frankenstein versus Young Frankenstein, an adaptation analysis.
Are there any questions before we proceed?
I have one question, Dr. Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein.
I beg your pardon?
My name. It's pronounced Frankenstein.
But aren't you the grandson of the famous Dr. Victor Frankenstein, who went into graveyards, dug up freshly buried corpses, and transformed dead components into...
Yes! We all know what he did. But I'd rather be remembered for my own small contributions to science, and not because of my accidental relationship to a famous cuckoo.
Big difference there. Mary Shelley only alludes to how the creature is created and imbued with life, and does much to make sure nobody's going to do this again, right? So on page 34 of Mary Shelley's edition, he says, I collected bones from charnel houses and disturbed with profane fingers the tremendous secrets of the human frame in a solitary chamber, or rather cell, at the top of the house, and separated from all the other apartments by a gallery and staircase, I kept my workshop of filthy creation. So not in this Gothic castle, as we're led to believe by Mel Brooks's film, if that's our only authority. Lightning is going to give the creature life. And the lightning in the beginning of the credits also is very complementary to what Mary Shelley does in her book, with all the weather of that eternal winter for summer that they were experiencing in real life when she wrote it. And on page 50 is when Victor actually encounters the creature after the death of his brother William. And there's this whole lightning show happening in the text. It says, this noble war in the sky elevated my spirits. I clasped my hands and exclaimed aloud, William, dear angel, this is thy funeral, this is thy dirge. As I said these words, I perceived in the gloom a figure which stole from behind a clump of trees near me. I stood fixed, gazing intently. I could not be mistaken.
Flash of lightning illuminated the subject,
and discovered its shape plainly to me, its gigantic stature and the deformity of its aspect, more hideous than belongs to humanity, instantly informed me that it was the wretch, the filthy demon to whom I had given life. Dun, dun, dun. The cottage encounter. Mary Shelley develops the creature's narrative with cottage folk who are his protectors. And the father is blind and plays guitar. And there's this whole scene where the creature gets up the courage to go befriend him or try to be interviewed by him so that he can be a part of their family, is what he's hoping. And what he's observed of them is such generosity and beauty that he really hopes that this is going to work. So he is staying to this adjoining hovel, but then he approaches the cottage door and he knocks, and the father says, Oh, it's enter, said De Lacy, and I will try in what manner I can relieve your wants. But unfortunately, my children are from home, and as I am blind, I am afraid I shall find it difficult to procure food for you. Well, Brooks takes this recipe of this scene and applies it to his film. He spins it to where you're first hearing this music, which is why I put here that the father plays guitar, because that's something that allured the creature and soothed him. And Mel Brooks has Ave Maria playing instrumentally in the background, and the father is a real father, a priest, and he's got his rosary, and he's blind, and he prays for companionship, and in comes the creature.
A visitor is all I ask. A temporary companion to help me pass a few short hours in my lonely life. Thank you, Lord.
What the creature needed to hear, the relationship that the creature wanted to have with the creator, is something that Mel Brooks spoofs as well. Mary Shelley writes Victor is unable to connect with his creation. He feels completely horrified of it, but has many encounters with a creature who is asking him to be a friend, to be a true father to him, to create him companionship. But Mel Brooks has Friedrich acknowledge the creature as a good boy, and this is just one of my absolute favorite scenes.
Let me out. Let me out of here. Get me the hell out of here. What's the matter with you people? I was joking! Don't you know a joke when you hear one? Jesus Christ, get me out of here! Open this goddamn door, I'll kick your rotten heads in! Mommy! Nine! This is a nice boy. This is a good boy. This is a mother's angel. And I want the world to know, once and for all, and without any shame, that we love him. Oh. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to show you how to walk, how to speak, how to move, how to think. Together, you and I are going to make the greatest single contribution to science since the creation of fire.
No one can conceive the variety of feelings which bore me onwards like a hurricane in the first enthusiasm of success. Life and death appeared to me ideal bounds, which I should first break through and pour a torrent of light into our dark world. A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. But in Mel Brooks's version, he presents an entertainer, a man about town, somebody who can just perform sophisticated tap.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits?
The Elizabeth encounter. Mary Shelley has the creature coming for Elizabeth on her wedding night. Well, Victor thinks that the creature will kill him, but of course, that wouldn't be enough torment. That would be putting him out of his misery. So instead, the creature endeavors to kill Elizabeth and does. And there's this distinct image at her death. I think Brooks does a really good job of recreating for a moment. Victor says, while I still hung over her in the agony of despair, I happened to look up. The windows of the room had before been darkened, and I felt a kind of panic on seeing the pale yellow light of the moon illuminate the chamber. The shutters had been thrown back, and with a sensation of horror not to be described, I saw at the open window a figure the most hideous and abhorred. A grin was on the face of the monster. He seemed to jeer, as with his fiendish finger he pointed towards the corpse of my wife. And you'll see in the Mel Brooks scene, he's at the window, and you see the moonlight, the pale moonlight, and you see him reach his hand. But he flips the script completely from there. It's just that image that stays intact.
Hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
It's the Bride of Frankenstein. Shelley's creature gave Victor the task of making him a companion, and this is where to which Victor called his sequel, which I think is interesting in talking about Brooks's adaptation, because it really is a sequel. It's a spoof on the original, and it's a parody completely in its second volume here, but it is a sequel. So Brooks' monster takes the namesake Elizabeth and makes her his mate. So in Brooks's film, Friedrich is engaged to an Elizabeth, just like Victor was. But the monster comes and takes her and makes her his bride. And she really digs him. Brooks also spoofs the Karloff bride with lightning streaked hair, minus the bolts and the creepy eyes.
Come over here, you hot monster. What is it? What's the matter? Is it that music? It's probably just from some nearby cottage. It's nothing to worry about. Where are you going? Oh, you men are all alike. 7 or 8 quick ones, and you're off with the boys to boast and brag. You better keep your mouth shut. Oh, I think I love him.
So my final thoughts on Young Frankenstein is that this is just Mel Brooks doing what he does best. He did this with Robin Hood and then Men in Tights. He did this with Spaceballs, like Star Wars. He just knows how to take something classic and just make it hilarious fun. So he holds on to this iconic imagery, and he really milks this music and the lightning and the torrential rain and the gothic atmosphere.